Hello, everybody,
Yeah.
and welcome to the Not Financial Advice YouTube channel with me, Lewis. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Mac, who is going to tell us all about who he is, what he does. I've been following Mac for a long time. I really respect what he
Mm.
does, how he does it, and the change that he brings to people's lives through everything that he does. And you're a bit like me. You've got your finger in a lot of pies nowadays, which is yeah, a good way to go. Diversified income streams, as we always talk about. So yeah, Mac, if you can just share with everybody who you are, what you're about, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, Lewis, thank you for inviting me onto your YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. And who am I? So, first of all, well, what am I? I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur for over 24 years now. And I started a little small computer company many, many years ago. And yeah, it was 1999, 2000 time. And these days, what I do, I own several businesses, often around the real estate property side of things. We have several real estate businesses, including an investment company, a development company where we build and develop houses and apartments around London. We have an education company, and that education company, I set that up from a passion point of view to really help other people to grow wealth, build their business. So that's me as an entrepreneur. And but my most proud thing, Lewis, is that I'm a family man. I've
Hmm.
been married to my wife now. We've been married. You met my wife, actually. We've been married for 24 years now, and we have three children.
So that's an interesting one. So entrepreneur for 24 years and
Yeah.
then married for 24 years. So are they correlated? Is it just that's how it happened? Is there like
Well,
a reason behind that?
here's the story, right? I was working for various corporations for about 10 years before I started my business. And I'd been planning this business. I was fed up at this company. And on my honeymoon, Lewis, I say to my wife, darling, I'm going to give up my job and I'm going to go into my own business. It didn't go down well. Why? There's imagine huge salary package, company car, all the benefits that go with it.
Yeah.
She's looking at me like, we just started our marriage and you're giving all that up. But I just felt in my heart that there was something better waiting for me. And so that's how that transpired. Yeah. So as a family man, children, grown up children now, that's who I am in a nutshell. And we can go more into detail in a moment, I suppose.
Yeah. Amazing. So what was the first business you started with?
Yeah, as I said, it was a computer IT company. And what we used to do is provide internet solutions. If you remember the dot-com bubble era,
Yeah.
1999 into 2000. So at that era, that time, my thinking was this is trending. People are going to need websites, they're going to need e-commerce. And so I went into I studied that and I started helping people develop their websites back in those days. And then so those same clients would ask me, look, every time I go to their office, got a problem with this computer, that computer. And
Yeah.
I knew a little bit, so I helped them. And then I started hiring staff to do all that. So we came into almost a one-stop shop. I don't like to use that term, but if you had an IT related, internet related problem, we would help you because people didn't know much about broadband internet. They didn't really know about websites. They knew of it, but they had computer problems. And those days, people were still using. It still happens now, but more so. You had a network server in the office. All the computers were related. And when that breaks down, panic stations,
Yeah.
backup service, and so that's what we were doing. That was the first business.
And where is that business now then? Are you still involved with that? Do you still own it? What happened to it?
I sold. Long story short, I came to a point where I was working so hard in that business, and I had two business partners over time who came and joined, and unbeknownst to me, they had colluded together. They had siphoned money out of the business. Creditors were now chasing me, so now I'm borrowing
Wow.
money on credit cards to pay creditors. I'm getting loans, and I found myself over 100 grand in debt, money that I owed other people.
Yeah.
This is good debt. This is really, really bad debt and
Yeah.
bad cash flow management from my side. So I couldn't blame them. So I'm looking for them. They're not answering their phone. I go to their house. They ignoring me. I know they're still around, but they're ignoring me. So I've got to get myself out of this. this hole.
Yeah.
So it was a very sad time because at the time, I remember one evening driving home from the office in North London, and I live in West London. 5 minutes from my home, I remember stopping my car in this shopping parking lot. And I sat there with my hands on the wheel, sitting there just sobbing and feeling sorry for myself, thinking, I'm such a failure. I'm at this point where my wife is pregnant with our second child. I'm working all these hours, 19 hours a day, 20 hours a day, little sleep. My doctor said you've got to slow down, your blood pressure is rising. And that really gave me a panic because obviously that leads to strokes and heart
Yeah.
attacks. And I had no idea what was going on because my thoughts were, I'm not a bad guy. I work hard. I do really look after my clients. But what these two have done have left me in the hole. And I promised my wife that this business is really going to provide for us. It's going to be really great. But now she's not even seeing me. And
Yeah.
my husband and we constantly arguing about everything and about money. And so I remember one evening, Lewis, that same evening after I drove off and got home, it was all a blur. But I remember over the coming days that how do successful people create the success? These people I read about in the Sunday Times rich list, how did they become rich? What were they
Yeah.
doing? Certainly something I don't know because I'm working hard. But what's going wrong with me? And what I realized is a lot of things I didn't know. So I went on this journey of self-discovery and I started reading books and going to workshops, going to seminars, anything I can get my hand on just to
Yeah.
solve my situation. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
And 2 years, within 2 years of sitting in that car park and going through all these courses, I was able to fix my business and I sold that business. When I sold that business, I went into real estate property. I also went into, well, people asked me to help them with their business. So I would help people one-on-one, a little bit time here and there. And then it became 1 to 10, 1 to 20. I used to run the workshops in central London. And then now it's, on some of the speaking that I do, it's hundreds of people in the room or thousands of people in the room now.
Yeah. Yeah. What a fantastic journey. I think similar to you, I had a situation in business which was actually property where I lost a lot of money, not through fault of my own, through external people, often the
Mm,
case, right? And
that
external
happened.
factors. And you have to, I think always think you have two choices. You let it break you and you give up and you never do anything entrepreneurial, you never try again, or you let it
Yeah.
be fuel for the fire and you let it be a lesson. And I remember intentionally having to choose that that's a lesson. Okay, I've learned a load of skills here. I'm also doing the crying thing because I felt like a failure, and you choose to move forward from it. And I mean, I sometimes speak to people who say they want to be successful, they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be business people. I mean, I teach people how to trade and they want to be successful traders, but they're not willing to go through what it takes to get to the other side. And that's fine if that's the choice somebody wants to make. But be honest with yourself. I sometimes say to people, if you're not willing to do what it takes, then stop pretending you are and putting yourself through even momentary misery by going to these seminars, reading these books, all of this stuff. Because why are you doing that? What's the point? You are just wasting your time and your energy. Just go and be as happy as you can be doing the normal 9 to 5 day-to-day thing. But if you actually aren't happy with that, don't half have your foot in the entrepreneurial world or half out. Actually do something or do not. And I'm thinking about Yoda again. There is no try, there is either do or do not.
Or do not do.
Yeah. And
No.
when I think about how much money, if we're talking money, that I've lost over the years on things that I've tried to
Mm.
invest in, make work, or coaches I brought on, or consultants I brought in to help with the business, and a lot of them have been rubbish and just a drain on the business. But you keep going, you keep going,
Yeah.
and you find what works. And would you find the ones that work if you didn't find the ones that didn't? I don't know, but it's all part of the process. It's very much that way. So
I love
I
that.
think,
You can't have, like one of my mentors once said, it's like, not making a decision. It's like the boat is moving. You got 1 foot on the boat and 1 foot on the dock. At
yeah,
some point, something's got to give.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're going to split in half, right? So
yeah,
I love what you're saying there.
yeah. Indecision is one of the most painful things. And
Mm.
it causes a lot of failure by just indecision. If you pick something and figured out it was the wrong way, then you can make the other decision. But if you just do nothing, you're in a worse position. What do you
Absolutely.
think gives someone that resilience? Do you think that resilience is something you're born with? Do you think that resilience is something that you can train or you develop? Where do you think it comes from?
I think it comes from, before I give you this word, I, I'm going to give you the word and you'll relate to it when I give you the word. The years ago when I was struggling, things weren't going right. One of the people I came across, and it was in a seminar, and he said, if you want success, you've got to be hungry.
Yeah,
This thing bellowed through the whole room. And I'm thinking, is this guy talking to me?
yeah.
It's Les Brown.
I love Les Brown.
Oh, he said, you got to be hungry. And hearing that, I'm thinking, how hungry am I really?
Yeah,
And remember, this is a time when I'm trying to fix my business. Things are not going right. I've got to find money to pay off these creditors, and hunger for me. If you're hungry and you want it, for me, it's more than just passion. It's more than just desire. It's more than it's like, yes, it's persistent on steroids. It's And like Eric Thomas says, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe,
yeah,
like if I said to everyone here, hold your breath for 5 minutes, you are going to want that breath because suddenly it's not there. And so building that resilience, I think you need that in every area of your life, and especially if you decide to invest, and you teach people how to invest. If you decide to start a business, the moment you decide to do something out of what you normally do, then this is where you're going to now face various obstacles.
yeah,
And the biggest obstacle is your mind, your little voice, your that thing in the head saying, well, I don't know if I can, I can't, or these people are good, they were born with a seal. So all these things will come to you. And above all, you're going to get these challenges where maybe you have to invest some money and you haven't got the money. Maybe you have to go and find a resource who you don't. Maybe you have to make a phone call to someone you don't know, and the rejection might be there. But you've got to, if you want it as badly enough, you'll make the call. You'll find the money. You'll ask for someone. You'll find a way. So I love that word resilience, like you just said. But it's something that can be developed. And
yeah,
the way to develop it, and the same as I show my kids, is make
yeah.
mistakes, go again, make mistakes, go again, make mistakes, go again. So it's a very, very important point.
Yeah, I think that fear of the mistake, fear of the failure is
Mm,
what stops people even trying. And then when they do attempt something and they have a failure, which is part of the process, they don't
absolutely.
want it to be part of the process. And then they have an over emotional reaction to that failure. And some failures are bigger than others, and therefore you have a bigger emotional response. But what is one failure in the grand scheme of an entire life? It's not a lot. And I think when you can have that perspective on your failures, and bear in mind they are lessons to be learned and part of the process, it does become easier to handle them. It really does.
Absolutely. And I told you about the incident where now I'm over 100 grand in debt. Have I lost money since? Oh yeah. Have I lost a lot more than that since? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What it taught me is, if you have that resilience, like you said, and that persistence and that whatever it takes attitude, you will ride that wave, you will overcome it. Guess what? Other challenges are coming down the line.
yeah,
As an entrepreneur, one thing I say to our business owner clients in coaching them is, after you resolve the problem, there will be another problem coming.
yeah,
And your job as an entrepreneur every day is look for the problems and resolve the problem. If you
yeah,
think this is a problem, I don't want to face it, that problem that doesn't actually go away.
yeah,
If there's a problem, it doesn't, and you don't face it, it doesn't go away. It actually gets bigger. It was a topic of my book, Face It and Fix It. Because what I say is this: when you have a problem, at the beginning stages, it's at its smallest and its weakest. But the longer you leave it, what happens? It gets what? Bigger and
yeah,
bigger. It disturbs your sleep and you can't sleep and you know you've got to face it. So face it and fix it. Good point.
yeah. And I think that kind of circles back to what we are saying about not making a decision, because
Mm,
choosing inaction, you're not fixing it, you're not facing it. you're avoiding making a decision and taking the action that's required. So you are straddling the ship and the land and not
Absolutely.
moving into action.
Yeah.
Imperfect action, I think, beats perfect non-action. That's not a
Yeah.
phrase. We'll kind of
These
yeah,
non-action,
yeah,
definitely.
definitely, definitely. Now you've written a few books, so I don't know if you've ever been asked this, but which of your books is your favorite personally?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never been asked that. It's like asking one of my children which one's.
And
But
secretly you have an answer, but you would never give it.
yeah, I mean, I wrote these books, all these four books. I wrote these books when at a time when it was always stemmed from people asking me the same questions.
Yeah,
So it was part of a mastermind for years, and people kept asking me, how do I create a mastermind? Because they've read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, and talk about mastermind. But I was in a mastermind, and I helped people to get into masterminds. And my colleagues and I then created a book. This was written in 2006, right?
yeah,
And then remember the journey I told you. I fixed my business, sold my business. I created financial freedom. I went from being heavily in debt to becoming a multi-millionaire. People ask me, how do you create success? How do you create success? So I wrote a book called The Inspired Warrior's Code, 7 Universal Principles for Living Your Unique Greatness. So every single book, and this one here, Face It and Fix It 2010, sorry, 20, yeah, 16, I wrote this one, which is all about business. And people ask me, how do I do business and all the rest of it? And during COVID, I wrote this one, The Millionaire Moment. So I probably don't have a favorite. It was a certain, because I remember the dates
yeah,
well. It was a time when people asked me things, the same questions. I thought, well, let me just put it in a book. And you asked me that question, oh, get my book, it's there.
yeah,
So this last one was it's all about how our thoughts shape our financial destiny,
yeah,
right? Because we create our wealth through our mind first.
yeah,
So
yeah,
in answer to your question, I don't have a favorite. But if I had to choose one, I think deal with money, and then money is not an issue. That allows you to live the lifestyle that you really, really want.
yeah.
So if I had to choose one, it'd be this one, my last
Which is the
one.
most recent one, right?
Yeah,
So what I find really interesting about that is you've kind of written those books as you've gone through your own journey and kind of evolved and developed. And then it's almost like, well, kind of read the end result and then work backwards from there. I find that really, really interesting from a book perspective because you wouldn't necessarily think that way. You'd think, oh, start at the start, first one I wrote, and then work towards that. But you're kind of saying start with the end in mind, which it's
yeah,
probably more mindsetty from the sounds of it
yeah,
because that mindset actually helps you create all the other stuff that happened as well.
definitely, definitely. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Should be in marketing, maybe. Anyway.
Well, maybe.
So, what advice would you give to somebody who is maybe just starting out in business or looking to get started in business?
The advice I would give them is you and I studied from some of the same people. And so I'm going to go straight to the cash flow quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki, I've had the pleasure to travel internationally around the world, 14 international tours around the world. So I know him very well. I know his stuff very well. But his book, Cash Flow Quadrant, when I first came across it, was a game changer. Apart from Rich Dad Poor Dad, this book was, and it talks about there's 4 mindsets in business. So anyone starting in business, you'll need to understand if you want to succeed in business and really build a business of scale, that the 4 mindsets being the employee mindset.
Yeah.
And the employee will exchange time for what? Time for money. Then
Yeah.
there's this employed mindset where basically you think you've created a business, but you've created another job in a sense that you've got to be there if you want to get paid. The dentist, the doctor, the architect, all these kind of people, the coach often. And then there's a big business mindset or the brand mindset where you are setting up a business, but with the intention that you're going to have the right team, the right systems, to operate a business and you don't have to be in it all the time. Then there's the investor mindset. So if it's business you're going into, understand that if you have an employee mindset, it will not work. In other words, as an employee, something goes wrong with your computer system, you know you can call IT. But here, there's only you.
Yeah.
There's no customer service. Customer service is you.
Yeah.
So, so that employee mindset just doesn't work. You can't thrive on 9 to 5. You can try and make it work 9 to 5, but there are things that come up. So understand, develop the mindset of a thriving entrepreneur. It starts from the mind. Once you've done that, then start your business. Now, when you start your business, what is business? What is business? Well, business is simply exchanging. So you're going to add value to someone and exchange that value for money. And the more people you can help with that exchange of value, the more money you're going to make. That's your job, right?
Yeah.
So understand, who are these people then, and what is the problem they have? Okay, there's this group of people, they got this problem. And what's the problem they have? Okay, I'm going to help them overcome their problems with my solution, with the value I'm going to. So if you get a mindset right and understand what business really is, because the reason why I'm keeping it very basic and straightforward is sorry, so understand what the problem is, understand who they are, and then understand where they are. How am I going to find them? Where do they hang out?
Yeah.
Is it they on Instagram? Are they at home? I need to do leaflet drops. The reason why I'm keeping it very basic is this: some people don't do that, and in my boot camps, I teach. We got formulas for all that. And what they do, they create something or they qualify as something, and then they say, okay, now I'm going to find the clients. Okay, so you've created this widget, whatever it is. I don't know. You've created this thing. Now you're going to go and sell it. Is there a market for it? Well, I don't know. Well, why didn't you find out if there's a market for it and people got the problem for it and then market it?
And
Do
then
you think
market
that?
it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so true. And I feel like you've just given like a properly fantastic mini masterclass in like just
Mm.
a couple of minutes. And that last point is, you see these people wanting to set up businesses sometimes, and there's no demand for it, and they're spending all this energy creating this
Mm.
thing, building this thing, planning this thing, and let's be honest, it's mainly just ideas and planning. They put all this energy into that, and they've never asked anybody if they want their service or product, and it's just madness. It's
Well,
absolute
you've seen
madness.
it. I've seen it. We look at
Yeah,
it and go, what are
yeah,
you doing? What
yeah,
do you do? Time, energy, money,
yeah.
putting all these. And yeah, absolutely. You're right there,
Yeah.
Lewis.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So test if there's any demand first before you spend any energy doing all this stuff to market it or get it out there. Because if there's no demand, there's no demand. There's a reason why certain products don't exist in the world because nobody
Mm.
wants them.
Yeah. 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 And there is, look, there's two schools of thoughts on that. As a small business owner, what you just said is absolutely right. But if you're Apple,
Yeah,
if you're Google, if you're one of these big and you develop something called the iPad. So you develop something called the iPad, and then suddenly you think, well, you can make mistakes with that
yeah,
because you
yeah,
got this volume of people buying the iPhone, the iMac, all this kind of stuff. But guess what? This takes off. But I'm sure it's not the only product they've launched where there was no market
yeah.
and it failed,
Yeah, it's funny,
right?
isn't it? Because if you think about the iPad, what is it? It's a big phone and it's a
That's
small,
what it is.
functional computer.
That's what it is. But who'd have thought it? In those days, Steve Jobs was saying, no, it's going to be this thing and people are going to use it like this. It's like a computer, but it's not a computer and it's flat, it's thin and all. As a small business owner,
Yeah,
you better have some finance behind you if you're going to go down that line. You better have some huge investors who are going to back that. Until that, go and test it out and see if there is a demand.
yeah.
And if there is, then create it and then sell it back to the people who wanted it in the first place.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I love that bit of advice. So, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you, stay up to date with you, follow what you do?
The best way, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, and often my work is around helping people move from that self-employed mentality to business owner mentality. In other words, helping people move from business operator to business owner,
Yeah,
where you're not exchanging time for money and you haven't created another job and and you can have a holiday, a vacation, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And so if that's you, then or you're thinking of starting a business and you need help, just go to my website, macattram.com. And at macattram.com, there is a free, you can get yourself a free report. And that free report comes by you doing a free quiz. And that quiz asks you various questions around business and then provides you a report in terms of the weak area that you have that if you don't fix will take you down eventually. So you get that free report. So usually people do that, macattram.com, do the free quiz, get a free report. And if you need me or you want to speak to me or one of my team, and then just on the same website, you can contact us. Other than that, Instagram, LinkedIn is how most
All
people
the other
reach
good
me.
places, yeah. And we'll put links in the show notes for all of that stuff as well, so people can find you nice and easily. Brilliant.
Superb. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Lewis.
Mac, thank you so much for being an absolute powerhouse of wisdom today. I'm sure this is going to be received really, really well. It's been great having you on the channel. Thank you for joining us.
My absolute pleasure, Lewis. Thank you.